It is now 11 o'clock. So welcome everybody. I think a few more may join us, and that's fine. We'll be recording this webinar as we always do, so that you can refer back in case there's anything that you might have missed on a from whatever we cover today. Keep in mind, all of the information that we talk about and more is included in the documents that you will receive from our team. So please do review those. And I know there's a lot of stuff. And I hear all the time that people sometimes say, "Oh, I didn't read through all the documents," but it's really quite important that you do review everything in detail. We're going to try and cover the highlights, the main points, but there's some details in there, and I'm going to refer you to those, Valerie and I, during the webinar, so that again, you just really make sure you look those up. So today, first of all, I'm going to introduce your host, Val, who may be familiar to some of you, may be new to some of you. She's hosted a number of our trips with us and one of our most popular hosts. And then Val and I are going to talk about what it is that you need to know in advance of your trip. So how to get ready to travel to Argentina and Chile, and for that matter, the day trip to Brazil for those who are participating in our pre-trip to Iguazu Falls, and then the arrival into Iguazu, for that matter, into Buenos Aires for those joining on the main trip. I'm going to cover a little bit about the itinerary, but I'm not going to go through it in great detail. So again, that's where I urge you to read the daily, which is the document that covers the itinerary in some degree of specificity. But of course, Val will be changing things on the fly as necessary according to whatever changing conditions, right? That's just how we run our trips, because obviously we want to have you have the greatest experience possible, as opposed to being married to a timetable. That's part of the beauty of Wheel and Anchor trips. Of course, we will then answer any questions at the end. You can put those questions either into the chat box, which is the one where some of you have already said hello, or into the Q&A box. Doesn't matter to us. For us, it's just windows on the screen that we will open. So without further ado, Valerie Peck, your charming and wonderful and very capable host. Valerie, welcome, and thank you for taking on hosting this amazing trip.
It's going to be fun.
It's going to be fun.
Excited. I see that everyone that's in the chat is from Ontario, and you're not here today, Gordon, but it has just begun to blizzard, and so I think we're all looking forward
again.
Yes, beautiful, big, fluffy white blizzard. So I think we're all ready to go somewhere a little bit warmer.
I have no doubt that you are. And, I was in Canada over the holiday period, and I got my dose of winter for the first time in a few years. And thank you very much. You can have it. Because I've just come back from Oman, where we had an incredible trip with our members. And of course, it was sort of 25 to 29 every day. And it was, anyway, I won't tell you any more about that, because we're going to talk about Argentina and Chile. So Val, do you want to say anything before you go? Oh, hello. There's another host, another Wheel and Anchor host who just pops into the scene. There's Todd Kjaergaard. Some of you may recognize
who is
him.
That?
It's like, gosh, what are Wheel and Anchor hosts all together in Toronto?
I know. I'm hiding in my in a corner of my office, and he just popped in. So
there you go. Wow.
And I heard him open the chocolate. We have chocolate by the door, and of course he stole some on his way out. So
bring some of that chocolate to Argentina. Maybe the guests will want to have some. Oops, I'm jumping ahead here. So Val, do you want to say a couple words before we get into the nitty-gritty?
Sure. Yes, I'm very excited to be traveling down south with all of you. This is I think my 5th or 6th trip with Wheel and Anchor. I'm Toronto right now. This is home for me. I've been here for 12 years, but I'm originally from out west. So grew up in Saskatchewan and then spent many years in Calgary and a few other countries, Mexico and California and places. But I'm excited. I do speak Spanish, but not quite like the Argentinians. They've got a beautiful accent, but
beautiful accent.
Yeah, beautiful accent. So
excited. Amazing. Yeah. Well, I'm excited for you. Buenos Aires, people ask me what are my favorite places? There's a million ways to characterize that. But as cities go, oh, I love Buenos Aires. It's such an amazing place. So I'm excited for you. And I haven't been there in a few years, so I wish a little bit that I was going back. But anyway, without further ado, let's get into the details. With first of all, with the what you need to know before you go, so that you're well prepared. And so let me start off with your documents. Obviously, the passport is the most important thing. Make sure you've got it. Make sure it's handy. Make sure it's good for at least 6 months beyond the trip dates. So hopefully you will have done that already, because otherwise you're going to be in a panic to get it. And take a copy of it, either a photocopy or a scanned copy with your phone, just so that you can have it left in a safe place in your hotel when you're out and about. You don't need to take it with you, only when you go, obviously, from one place to the next. So let's talk a little bit just briefly about documentation. Again, this is in your reference guide, the information we sent. There's no visas required for Argentina, Chile, Uruguay for the day trip you're going to do over there. Sadly, however, the Brazilians have now re-implemented a visa. There wasn't one last year. Now they put one back on again. It's flip-flopped over the years, with this Brazilian visa. Sometimes we've needed it, sometimes we haven't. At the moment, we need it. Unfortunate, because you get to have to hand over $80 US for the privilege. But to get to Brazil, either for those of you who are flying in, some of you may actually even be flying into, I haven't even checked the list, into Iguazu on the Brazilian side. But the quick geography of it, right? Iguazu, in Brazil, it's Foz de Iguazu, and in Spanish or Argentinian, it's oh, I just forgot. It's Iguazu. Same town, but it's not the same town, because there's one town on the Brazilian side, one town on the Argentinian side. So you're either going to be flying to the Brazilian side and crossing into Argentina, which is where we stay, or you're going to be flying into via Buenos Aires and then up from there to the Argentinian side. There's airports on both sides of the borders. Either way, if you are entering Brazil, either to get to Iguazu, or if you're just entering for our day trip to Iguazu, you will need a visa to enter Brazil. The process is there. As I say, it's about $80 US. There's a website that you go to. You can apply for it online, and you should do that if you haven't already done it now, just to make sure you're not going to have any issues with it. Typically, it's issued pretty quickly, but take care of that so that you're good to go. It's a little bit unfortunate that just for a day trip that you have to plop in out $80. But that is unfortunately the way it is. It's in the diplomatic circles. Apart from that, the only other thing that we note is that Argentina technically requires mandatory travel health insurance, which is one of these anomalies. So just make sure. I'm sure you all have travel insurance. I hope you all have travel insurance. I wouldn't leave Canada without travel insurance. Please do make sure you have a copy of it in case someone should ask for that documentation when you enter. I find that documentation that's required is typically asked by the airline before you even leave Canada. They're the ones that are sticklers, because technically, if they didn't check that you have the right documentation, then they're liable to send you back. And then, invariably you need this, that, or the other thing. And then when you arrive, you don't need it. But technically, that is the requirement. So they may ask for it either when you check in for your flight from Canada or when you arrive in Argentina. So I would keep a hard copy. That's something I would keep a hard copy of. So it's less complicated. So just whatever insurance certificate that you got, or if you have an annual travel plan, just that, there will be something that you can show to them. So you've got that. Chile also requires the SAG, the agricultural affidavit form, which is also something you have to do online. Theoretically, you could do it while you're in Argentina, but hey, just get it out of the way so that that's done as well. And the entry date, of course, will be in the daily, so you can see exactly when you'll arrive. So all those links are in your trip-specific guide. And otherwise, the only other thing I say at this juncture in any webinar is any other things. Like, I always look at it this way when I'm traveling in terms of documents. It's like, if I was going to be away from home for 6 months, what might I want to have with me? At the very least, stored in our phone, because these days we store passwords and all that stuff in our phones so that they're accessible. But I think about passwords for my email. I think about login codes from my banking. Think about that as if you were going away for a prolonged period of time, even though this trip is only a couple of weeks in duration. But having that stuff handy just in case is a lot better than going, oh, shoot, I don't have it. And then what do you do? It becomes a problem. So that's my frequent traveler perspective on that. Let's jump into packing. And Val's going to give you a little bit of a sense of what you should bring because we're going through a few different climatic zones here. So there is a little bit of packing to be done.
Yeah, for sure. So we've got, yeah, different types of weather. You're right. We're going through different zones and places. So obviously, like Buenos Aires and Santiago should be very comfortable during the day, but they will cool off in the night. So you can expect kind of like it could be anywhere from high teens to high 20s, but then the evenings will be a little bit cooler. So scarf or light jacket for the evenings. When we go into Iguazu Falls, we're obviously going to have some bad hair, a lot of humidity there. So you're going to be in your low 20s, your low 30s. But you could have tropical showers. So be prepared for that, bringing like a light raincoat or even just a poncho. That would be helpful since we're only there for one day. Once we get into the Andes and Mendoza, it'll be, again, cooler nights, but the days will be pleasant. So dressy casual is kind of the standard for Argentina and Chile. When we're going into restaurants for the men, we certainly recommend bringing a coat and a tie. Not for every meal, but in some restaurants, that will be kind of a requirement. Higher end venues, just polished attire for sure. But generally, I mean, we do keep it pretty casual on our trips. But please, good walking shoes. Probably a couple for this trip because we are going to Iguazu. You're gonna have probably some wet shoes. Layers is the key. Love layers. And then just a little day pack with sunscreen, hat, water bottle, all the essentials. And then motion sickness. This is one thing that actually Todd hosted this trip. And there is one day where we are going to be down some winding roads. So if you are one of those people that gets dizzy by that, any motion sickness medication that you have is strongly recommended on this trip. So just crossing the Andes, it's just a reality. So we will be moving through lots of things. So just try to, use smart luggage if you can. And
Yeah.
yeah, that's pretty
Yeah,
much
and
it.
you don't take too much. Yeah, I think this is always the balance, right? Because you hear about it's going to be really cool, and then we're going to drive over the Andes Mountains. We're going to be at 3,200 meters above elevation when you cross the tunnel, which is the point forms the frontier between Argentina and Chile, um, where it'll be cool. But you know, you can manage this trip with carry on. You could, in theory, do that. I'm not suggesting that that's necessary, but keep it compact. Or if you're taking a larger suitcase, leave room for all the souvenirs, maybe the wine that you're going to bring from Mendoza. Let me just address one thing that Val mentioned in terms of the dress. You, you don't need to bring a dinner jacket if you are just planning to eat at more casual restaurants. But Argentina is, and you'll see this right away. They're very image conscious people, for lack of a better word, right? People in Argentina are very well dressed. They're practically vain, and I say that in a positive sense of the world. It's in a positive sense in the word. They're like Italians in that regard. Well dress is important to them, and if you want to go into the nicer restaurants, and I would encourage that. One of my favorite steakhouses in the world, if you're a steak lover, is Cabaña Las Lilas in the Puerto Madero district of and it is it's an incredible place, but people there, they dress up for dinner. So um, you could not. They might give you an issue. In fact, some restaurants do have it as a requirement. And so just be mindful of that, and otherwise throw in a dinner jacket, so that you fit in, or for that matter, comply with the dress code requirements. But generally speaking, our attire on our trips is casual, and you can get away with it. If this is only if you are planning to go out. Same thing. If you go out to the tango show that we visit in Buenos Aires is it's more of it's a touristic affair. But so you don't find as many locals in there as you do tourists, and it's a great show. People really enjoy it. Um, but some people I know on previous trips have like been fascinated by this tango culture, that you can go out and experience when you're during your free time. But some of those, if you decide to go out for another night and another show or something, again, this is a place where the whole essence of it is a little more formal. And the outfits, the costumes, which so I just wanted to put a little qualifier on that because I know some people are like, oh my God, I got to bring in a jacket, suit, and tie. You don't have to, but our members often like to fit in, as it were, and so that would be that. Perfect. Enough said about the packing. Let's jump forward on to money. Generally speaking, what I would say here is that you can use your credit card or your Wise card, which we'll talk about again in a second, in most places. So you don't need to worry too much. Now, because you're dealing with four different currencies here, actually, really only two major ones for Argentina and Chile, but I wouldn't go bother getting Brazilian reals for a day in Brazil, wouldn't be necessary, or Uruguayan pesos for that matter, because credit cards are fairly ubiquitous. But in more remote places and little markets and so on and so forth, that you may cash is always preferred. So let's talk first of all about Argentina. If you know anything about Argentina, if you've been following the media over not just the last couple of years, but the last few decades, Argentina's economy has been extremely unstable over the years. They've had significant inflation in the past, and certainly a very unstable currency. The situation has improved largely under this most recent president, love him or hate him, but he's brought some stability to the currency. So that the old way of doing things, which I won't even talk about, because you used to go and buy blue dollars, which was, basically pesos on the black market. That was the way to do things as recently as, a year and a half, 2 years ago. That is no longer the case. But if you have US dollars in smaller denominations and clean and crisp ones, it is never a bad idea to have those because they are, there is still an appetite for it. So if you're going to bring cash, in most places around the world, I say don't bother getting US dollars. This is one of those places where I would say US dollars can be handy. Um, you can use ATMs in Argentina. They now work again, and the rate of exchange is pretty good. It used to be terrible. It's now pretty good at ATMs, where you can use your Wise card and get out Argentinian pesos. But you cannot get US dollars out of an ATM. So if you want to bring or use US dollars, you must bring them with you. Uh, the withdrawal limits are pretty low in ATMs. That's the only thing. Like you may only be able to take out the equivalent of about $100 at a time. And every time, of course, you have to pay the bank, the ATM fee. And then depending on where you're at with your Wise withdrawals for the month, you may have to pay a small Wise fee as well. So again, this is where cash can be a little bit more handy. But credit cards for a lot of things will cover you for shopping. There's great shopping in Buenos Aires. For dining out at better restaurants will be fine. Move over to Chile. Currency is the Chilean peso. It's been stable for a long time. No issues there. Credit cards everywhere. Cash is available anywhere. No US dollars required or even desired, quite honestly, in Chile. So the moment you cross over to Chile, it's like, no, keep your greenbacks at home. They're not as interested in that. So and as I mentioned, for the day in Brazil, you're not really going to need much cash, so I wouldn't worry about it. Again, you could use those US dollars, but the US is out of favor, not just in Canada, but in some of these countries as well. So yeah, that's that. The Wise card is the card that we strongly recommend for our travelers. More and more of our members have adopted them. We use them, our hosts use them, we use them at a corporate level. It is the best exchange rate going, and it is a debit credit card. You can go to an ATM machine, and at least until the 1st of May, you can take out the first $300 without a Wise fee. Unfortunately, they're changing those rules. I just found out the other day, which is a bit unfortunate, but the cost of banking seems to be going up. But for this trip, you can take out up to about $300 Canadian without any Wise fees, and the exchange rates are still the best in the business. We check them all the time. So if you don't have one, I suggest you get one. and you still have time to get it on like the physical card, which does take about 3 weeks to get. But if you don't have one, you want one, you can order it today, and you will get it soon. The digital card, which is the only one I use 95% of the time, you can get instantly. So all the information again is in the reference guide that we sent to you. Let's move on and talk about gratuities, and then Val will explain a little bit about SIM cards and Telegram and so on and so forth. The gratuities can be a bit confusing. That's why we include them. So you have prepaid them for the majority of the services, for all the services that we provide, where a tip would otherwise be expected. That's covered, and Val will take care of tipping the relevant drivers and guides and waiters to the extent that it's relevant, and all those services. So the only thing where tipping isn't included is housekeeping, because that's obviously between you and the housekeeper. If you are somebody that likes to tip the housekeeper, the airport transfer when you arrive, if you have a great transfer driver, you want to slip them again a couple of small US dollars. That's always much appreciated. And then when you dine out on your own, the guideline for both Argentina and Chile is around 10% of the bill. So it's not 15 or 20 like at home, it's about 10%. But a lot of restaurants do include a service charge in the bill. So it's important that you look at your bill, as always, and then see if the service charge is there. And if not, leave the tip where possible in cash. If it's already on the bill, you're taken care of. But if you are paying the bill with a credit card and it's not included, it is very much preferred to get the tip in cash so that the service people actually receive it. And tipping in Argentina and Chile is expected in sit-down restaurants, so keep that in mind. What else do I want to say about that? Um, yeah, I think that covers it. Let's move on. Mobile communications. Val, over to you.
Okay, so Telegram. That is the way I communicate. I've had only one of you, Lynn, thank you, reach out to me on Telegram. So if everyone can get Telegram on their phones, I had a situation on my last trip where the husband was on Telegram and the wife was not, and it was not a good situation. So if everyone could please have Telegram on their own phones, should I ever lose one of you. But it is like our main way of communicating. And it's also what I love about Telegram is I find we have the chat and the channel. So the channel is where I'll put information out for the day, letting you know if things have changed or if, our drive time or pickup time has changed. That's kind of where it's a one-way channel. And then we have the chat where you can communicate amongst yourselves, you can share photos. And I think that's where a lot of the fun happens. I see a lot of connections or people being like, hey, I just found this new restaurant. People join or people have an off day, they join. So Telegram is, I can't emphasize one thing. I do really want to emphasize that you have to have it on your phone before we leave on the trip, because it does have to send a uh, double whatever check to your actual phone number. So you have to do it before the trip. On my very first trip, I had a couple that didn't do it. And yeah, they didn't have Telegram the whole trip and it was challenging. So just please make sure you do that before. And just if you can send me a private note on Telegram, that'd be awesome. So I have your contact information. And I know one of the things Gordon was saying too is that just on the departure, some are going through Argentina, some are going through Brazil. I am going through Brazil. So if anyone's following me, I'm getting in a day earlier than most of you. So if anyone needs any advice or any questions, just shoot me a note too. And then when it comes to SIM, there's a few different ways that you can do it. You can roam and just go on Wi-Fi, which is totally fine. You can get a local SIM. So you can either you can grab a SIM when you get to the airport there. Challenge that we've run into sometimes is that we can't get a SIM right away, and it ends up being a little bit challenged getting a physical SIM. And then you can also do an eSIM, which is easy to do also, which you can do with Rogers or Telus or Bell in advance. You can kind of prep that and then figure out how to do it on your phone for when you get there. Truthfully, the way that I do it, and it's not a way you have to do it, but there is an app called Airalo. Um, AIRALO. And what it
OLO.
is it allows you to have an eSIM and you can pick any country. I love this one for when we're moving through different countries instead of having to get a SIM card in each country. What you do is you can go on and it's creating an eSIM. Of course, my furnace just kicked in here. It creates an eSIM and then you just choose like I want 3 gigs for Argentina. I'm going to need 1 gig in Brazil because we're only there for one day, and it just automatically it's just an easy way. Gordon, do you have any thoughts? But I personally I love Airlo because it's easy, cheap, and efficient.
Exactly. Airolo is one of 100 different eSIMs that you can choose from. Um, but a lot of our members have sort of gravitated towards it. I believe it works as well as any in Argentina and Chile. We have not sort of promoted any particular one like we do with the Wise Card, only because I just came back from a trip where somebody has always been using Airolo and then only had problems with it. So it's like, ah. You just never know. But it should work just fine. And it is the more convenient option because shopping for a physical SIM card when you arrive, it can be a bit of a nightmare. And why bother? You want to enjoy the trip. You don't want to be trying to find a SIM card. If you arrive into Brazil, by the way, you certainly don't want to buy a SIM card there because you're only there for a day, right? You'd only want to get it when you get to Argentina. But if you want to be searching around Iguazu Falls, Argentina to get a SIM card, yeah, possible for sure. SIM cards are certainly easier to get there than they are in Canada. But again, it's language barrier, it's all those issues. So the eSIM is kind of the way to go. Um, yeah, but that's about all I wanted to say about that. And yeah, have it and use it. And again, for Google Maps, I mean, one of these days when I have lots of free time on my hand, I always, wanted to do sort of a traveler's guide to all the great things, ways you can use technology while traveling, because you can use it for translation, you can use it for Google Maps and navigation, you can use it for foreign currency exchange to figure out how much that trinket is that you want to buy. Like there's so many good things to be able to have your phone and that ability, not to mention staying in touch with folks back home. So keep all that in mind. Okay, let's move on one more time to health and safety. Just a couple of guidelines we have for all of our trips. First of all, if you feel unwell when you arrive in the trip or at any point during the trip, if you have symptoms like sneezing or coughing, we request that members wear a mask. We hate masks. We all know that. We lived through 2 years of wearing masks during the pandemic, but for that exact reason, that we don't want to spread disease to or a cold or anything to our fellow members. Please bring a mask. Please wear a mask if you feel unwell, and let Val know. And don't take it to heart if Val says, "Yeah, I hear you coughing. You should probably put on a mask." Again, we don't mean to be, it's just common courtesy. If you should have an injury at any point during the trip, if you should, yeah, anything happens to you. I mean, stuff happens. We get a cut or a scrape or a burn or God knows what. Please let Val know. And if you're not with her, send her a message so that we can recommend the best course of action. So our hosts are not first aid people. They're not there. We're not even really allowed to deal with medical issues. It's just not something that we do. But the host responsibility is just to make sure that you get medical attention if it's necessary. And then from there, your travel insurance will take over. But that's not going to happen. You're all going to be fine. But I just wanted to point that out. The last thing I wanted to mention, of course, smoking is not permitted on our Wheel and Anchor trips. And so if you're a smoker, that's fine. And I will note that people in Latin America still do smoke, in some cases, actually quite voraciously. So, and I'm somebody that's like, I can tell somebody smoking a cigarette from 30 meters away outside. So be aware of that. But we will not smoke amongst our fellow members because that's just what we do. So yeah, that's all I think I wanted to mention about that. Let's talk a little bit about your arrival into Iguazu, whether it's Iguazu or Iguazu. they're pronounced more or less the same. Looking at the map, for those of you who are on the pre-trip flying into, again, you're going to be arriving into, and if you aren't sure, double check your airline tickets and make sure you know where it is that you're exactly going, because you're either going to be flying into airport code IGU, which is Foz do Iguaçu. Iguaçu falls on the Brazilian side, which you would probably be flying from Canada to Sao Paulo in all likelihood in Brazil, and then making a connecting flight down, or you're flying to IGR, which is Iguazu Falls on the Argentinian side, in which case you would probably be flying either through Buenos Aires and back up, or potentially from, through some other routing like Copa through Panama, or wherever it is. So either way, we've got you covered, and we will be picking you up at the airport and transferring you from there. So the trip will, for those doing the pre-trip, begin in Iguazu Falls with the first few days there. And then the main trip starts in Buenos Aires, the capital of Argentina itself, where you'll spend a number of days enjoying that amazing city. You then fly across the country to the other side, to the foothills of the Andes, Mendoza, which is the wine capital of Argentina, as it were, and you'll enjoy that beautiful city. You'll cross overland the mountains to Santiago, the capital of Chile, of course, and you'll do some day trips out to the coast to Valparaiso and Viña del Mar, and you'll enjoy that amazing city. So, really a lot to take in, but we've organized it so you've got plenty of time in both. Wherever you land, whether it's Iguazu or Buenos Aires, somebody will be there at the airport with a sign to pick you up. Um, They'll have likely your name. Sometimes it's beautifully written out in big font. Sometimes it's scribbled on a. We're never too sure what the drivers are going to have, but do look carefully for your driver when you arrive at the airport. If you don't find them right away, give it some time. Sometimes they're normally they're right there in the arrivals hall after you clear customs with your baggage, but sometimes they may be lurking around somewhere in the arrival hall. If you have any issue and you don't find them right away, that's when it's obviously ideal to have your phone and to be able to send Valerie a message, so that she'll, as she mentioned, will be there and can coordinate to make sure you connect with your driver. Um, Backing up for a second, if you have any delay on your flight that will have you not be on the flight that you're supposed to be on, then it's really important to let us know. So let's say you flying to Sao Paulo and then making a connecting flight down to Iguazu, and you miss because there's a snowstorm in Toronto, God forbid. Um, uh, and we've had a few of these so far this year. And you need to please let Valerie know as soon as possible. Log on to the Wi-Fi in the airport, or however you get online. Please let her know, so that we don't have a driver looking for you when you're not there, and more importantly, that we do have a driver looking for you when you are there. That's the more important thing. We haven't lost anybody yet. So I just threw this shot in. This is me at Iguazu Falls. This is a few years ago, maybe more than a few years ago, on the Brazilian side. Um, Iguazu, just to let you know, is uh, amazing. This for me is the most spectacular waterfall in the world, and I've been to pretty much all the big ones. And this one is incredible because of the number of cataracts coming down. The Argentinians and the Brazilians are always arguing who has the better view. It's the Argentinians, but the from the Brazil side, it's still as spectacular because you can see the view behind me. This is taken from the Brazilian side. And they have these birds that have their nests in behind the waterfall. So you see them flying into the waterfall like as if they were like suicide bombers. It's amazing to watch. So anyway, I love this place. So you'll spend the days there. You're going to get tours of both sides of the falls. There's lots of places to walk around. There is free time in there as well if you want to go on a jet boat from the Argentinian side, or there's various ways to experience the falls. But just walking around the myriad of pathways and walkways is an experience in itself. Fast forwarding then to the main trip for those joining us there, Buenos Aires. Oh, I must not forget to mention about the luggage tag. For Buenos Aires, this city, again, one of the largest in Latin America. It's a vast city. You'll see when you're flying in over the city, over the top of the Rio de la Plata. It's well over 10 million people. You're going to be focused, you're going to be staying in very close to the downtown core. And Buenos Aires is contrary to sort of popular belief or to what things were like. It's generally quite safe, as is Santiago. That being said, it is a big Latin American city. And so wandering around late at night on your own, it's not a good idea anywhere. I wouldn't do that in Toronto these days, quite honest with you. But it's generally quite safe. That being said, I, do keep don't bring any valuables at all. Like it's just unnecessary. It just you just make yourself a target. The worst thing that would happen there is like a pickpocketing or something of that nature. And so that way I would, you know, my trick for any of these places is, I always put like $20 in my shoe or something like that. God forbid something should happen again. Highly unlikely. We've never had any incidents. I've personally walked around Buenos Aires far too late at night, and not felt unsafe. But listen, it can happen. So I just wanted to mention that. But generally speaking, the areas that you're staying in, where you're going, it's going to be fine and you're going to love it. It's vibrant. Probably the biggest risk in Buenos Aires, quite honestly, is the traffic. Like you'll see the Avenue of the 9th of July is this big, huge, wide boulevard that you wouldn't even want to think about trying to cross else anywhere other than a crosswalk. But that's a bigger risk. That's probably a bigger risk than anything else. Um, I would take the time to for those free evenings, if you are somebody that's a foodie, there's incredible restaurants in Buenos Aires, again, particularly steakhouses. My personal favorite, Cabaña Las Lilas. Do a little bit of research beforehand if you're somebody and find some of those restaurants because some of them will require reservations. If you're somebody that likes to dine out at great places. So while you're in Buenos Aires, you're also going to be visiting the nearby Tigre Delta, which is where the Rio de Plata goes from a narrow river, and there's a whole there's a whole estuary full of islands, which is kind of like cottage country for the porteños, which is the name of what they call the people that live in Buenos Aires. So you're going to experience that as well. You've got ample time to really get a feel for this city. And as I say, it is one of my favorites. From there, you'll fly across the country to Mendoza. Mendoza has a more chill vibe. It's still a fairly large city, but nowhere near as big as Buenos Aires. This is obviously the wine capital of Argentina, but the city of itself is one of those ones where it's like, wow, you've never heard of it before, or you've heard of it because you've seen it on the label of a wine bottle, but you don't really know what to expect. And it's got green, beautiful boulevards and little rivers that run down some of the streets. It's a very cool town. And here, part of the focus will be on the wine culture that is such a big part of this part of Argentina. So you'll enjoy that. From here, you're going to go up and over the Andes Mountains to Santiago de Chile. So that is the part where Val mentioned it's going to be windy roads. So if you're somebody with motion sickness, on the Argentinian side, it's like very long stretches, and then there's a curve, and there's a long stretch back. Less so on the Chilean side. It's hairpin turns all the way down. And so be mindful of that. We were going to cross your fingers that you get great weather, so you'll see some spectacular views of the Andes, maybe even Mount Aconcagua, the highest in the Andes Mountains. You are going to be traveling up to an elevation of 3,200 meters, which is just over 10,000 feet, but you're not going to be moving around a lot. So I wouldn't worry too much about altitude issues because you're not going to be running or doing any sort of physical activity. We say as a rule that anything over 3,000 meters is where you start to really feel the effects of altitude. But if you're somebody that has a concern about that, sure, call your doctor and say, hey, should I be worried about this? But the vast majority of people will not have an issue because, again, we're not going to be exerting ourselves at altitude. You're going to literally cross the border. There's some formalities to go through. And then you'll continue on the other side down to Santiago, which we don't have a picture of Santiago. Again, a big city, vibrant city, skyscrapers. It's one of those ones where you'll be like, wow, it's not really what I expected from a Latin American city, but it's a very modern, a cosmopolitan place. And for the most part, safe. But there are parts of Santiago, and they'll let you know when you arrive. It's like, I wouldn't do this after dark, or I wouldn't do that after dark. But for the most part, it's going to be fine, and you're going to have a great time. Okay. We have covered a lot of information, and I haven't seen any questions yet, so that must mean we're doing a good job. If you do have any questions that are of general interest to anybody in the group about what we're going to see or what we're going to do or how to get ready, now would be a good time. There were a couple of questions that came in by email, and I'll address those now. For the internal flights, Val is going to have your e-tickets. They're all electronic tickets anyway. So she'll have those, and yeah, you just need to show up with your passport, right? These days, you don't ever really even need to show a ticket. Your passport has all the info that the airline needs. You are going to be a grand total of 9 whole people on this trip, so you've got a fairly small trip. Um, and so an intimate trip, you're gonna really, that's going to be a lot of fun. I think yeah, it's going to be great. Um, we will provide bottled water daily, certainly in vehicles. If we go on a walking tour, Val isn't necessarily going to bring around 10 bottles of water. I recommend bringing a water bottle, honestly, because I'm a bit of a sustainability nut, and I just I say that, and I have a plastic water bottle right here, but the water in general from the hotels is safe to drink, but they will provide bottled water there. So I would bring it from your room, or I would, grab some at the store. But for the most part, when we're touring around, you will have bottled water provided. I just, again, try to use as much as possible water bottles to eliminate some of the plastic going into our oceans. Any other questions? Form that, yeah, okay, great. So Valerie addressed that question in the chat. It's the SAG agricultural affidavit form. The link to it, like everything, all of the other excuse me, is in the reference guide. So again, go back and read all that stuff. Make sure you have all your documents, and make sure they're all in order before you go. Valerie, is there anything else that we need to mention? I think we've covered a lot.
Just
Um,
just one little
yeah.
thing. Just making sure that everyone has every bag with their name and email and phone on it, just for all the
Mhm.
transfers we're doing. I just want to make sure that everyone has everything on every bag. So that's my only
Yeah,
little
exactly.
addition.
Please have a luggage tag. It makes our lives and the hotels and the transfer and the drivers much easier. Make sure you please have your bag identified. Please don't put your home address on it though. That's never a good idea. But have your name clearly written, your phone number, and your email address. That would be great. And then it just makes us a lot easier um, for identifying your bags when we're moving them from one place to the next. David asked, the travel insurance relates to medical coverage. Yes, that's correct. If they don't care about cancellation, that's for you. But yeah, you just need to be properly covered for travel medical is what they're looking for as far as Argentina is concerned for your entry. Um, If you need to do laundry, the hotels provide service, but honestly, I mean, you probably wouldn't need it for Buenos Aires unless, of course, after the Iguazu Falls trip. There are little laundromats that you can find nearby, and they frankly do a great job. So that's what I tend to do when I go on trips like this, and I don't want to have to bring a change of clothes or for every single day. That being said, I always say when it comes to laundry, the key to everything is underwear, because you can also just do it in the sink if you have to, and outerwear, you can wear a shirt more than once if you've got, something underneath, kind of thing. Nobody is going to judge you on that. It's all about being practical, and it's not about, we're not in a fashion competition here. But I'm sure you all know that, and our members generally know how to travel um, efficiently as far as stuff is concerned. Okay, I think that's it. If there aren't any other questions, last call. If you do have a question that pops up, of course, you'll already be in touch with our office, either Melody, who does our flights, but also our after sales support. So if you have a general question, please drop a note to Melody. and she will endeavor to get the answer to that question for you. You can also send a message to Val on Telegram. She's there at your disposal as well, for any questions. Yeah, we obviously want to make sure you're well prepared for your trip. Otherwise, I wish you bon voyage. Have an amazing time. Have a good trip down there. I'm sure it's a month away, but you're going to be you're going to be anxious to get into the warm weather. Any final words from you, Val, before we close off?
No, I'm just excited to meet everyone. I know some of you, but it's not that far away. And on a day like today, it's it's getting more exciting. So, but yes,
Yeah,
please reach out to me on Telegram.
fantastic. Thanks everybody for joining us today. We will send you a link to this recording, and have a wonderful time in Argentina and Chile and Brazil and Uruguay. Oh, for Uruguay, that's one thing I was going to mention as well. Our host Todd, who you briefly saw there at the beginning of the webinar, we do a day trip to Uruguay. So you cross by high-speed ferry across the Rio de la Plata. You're entering another country. You don't need a visa, but you do need your passport. And I remember that our host Todd forgot his at the hotel and had to run back in a hurry. So that is one place where you will need to bring your passport for the day. So I just thought I'd throw that in there. That's it from us. Thanks again. Take care. Have an amazing trip. I look forward to hearing your feedback. And most of all, I hope you have a fantastic time. Bye for now, everybody.